outcome of what you just saw now. That's reports from our correspondent who went actually to the center of conflict where the kidnap of the 110 schoolgirls in Dapchi actually took place. Mngusuul Uji joins us now on set. She is a defense correspondent. Welcome back. You're safe. You're okay. So how did it go?
Yes, it went very well. The trip to Dapchi was safe. There was no attack on the road. Thank God for that. But when you get to the village, you know that these people have seen something they won't forget in a long time, because many homes are still mourning those whose children were affected, and those who knew children that have been affected, or some parents, friends or family, and everybody is coming around to console and mourn with their friends who have experienced this terrible thing. So there's a lot of tears in Dapchi, there's a lot of pain, there's a lot of grieving. The mothers especially are inconsolable. They just sit on the floor and cry. And then we also saw some escapees, those schoolgirls who were able to escape from the attack. There's one girl in particular who told me that she had to lie down in the bush like for hours all through the night before daytime came. And at that time, the troops had already started searching, so she was guided back to the village. And they're afraid of going back to school.
When did this incident happen? What time did the incident happen as the kidnap and the abduction?
It happened on the 19th.
And at what point did the parents get the news that their children had been abducted?
Okay, it happened in the evening of that day. The girls said they had just come back from prayers, or we're about to go for prayers, but it was around the prayer time, around 6 o'clock. Yes, that kind of time. And the villagers knew that Boko Haram had entered the town because the routes they took, they passed through the town before getting to the school, which is a few minutes outside the community. So, but they weren't sure what Boko Haram was doing. They weren't sure what the convoy that had entered the town was coming to do. So it was later they started hearing gunshots, people were running helter-skelter, and there's a woman who ran out of Dapchi and called her husband, who was in Damatru, that their village is under attack. But she didn't know that her child would be taken. She did so. It was the next morning when she returned back to the community after the attack that she found out the school had been attacked and her child was still missing. That was when many of them came to terms with what had happened, because there was a lot of confusion around that time, and the Boko Haram convoy escaped through the bush, from what the witnesses told us.
How did they come to the school? Were you able to gather information how they got to the school? Did they also come through the bush?
Yes, they came through the bush, but you know, it's not really bushy per se. You know, this vast dry land, there are little shrubs, but trucks can still pass through. They didn't take the main road all through from Damatru. They came through a bush path and linked to the road that led to the village.
Yes. What have you found out in terms of the security presence in Dapchi at the time this incident happened?
At the time this incident happened, as the military had confirmed, they had redeployed some troops to beef up security in another area. That was some weeks earlier before the incident. But I really can't speak for the military, but those people in Dapchi actually said this is the first time their village has been attacked. So Dapchi was not really seen as a high-risk area. So maybe when the troops were even redeployed out of Dapchi, that was not a consideration. But still, it's one of the controversies that surround the Dapchi issue. But for now, ever since the attack, the Dapchi community and other neighboring communities have more security presence now. We don't know whether the terrorists will come attack again, but there's more security now. At the entrance, every car is checked, and every car is checked before it exits the community. And then there is also a lot of surveillance in the area, and the routes that the Air Force possibly thinks they can trace, even if it's not those who kidnapped the Dapchi girls, but any other terrorist movement in that side.
Were you able to visit the school itself?
Yeah, I entered the school. The school is...
Is it like a ghost town now?
It is more than a ghost town. There's nobody in the school now. Nobody's going to school in Dapchi now.
How many schools do you have in Dapchi, actually?
The students?
How many schools?
Oh, that's just the only school. Well, maybe there is a primary school somewhere, but that's the main secondary school, and most girls from the village and neighboring villages came to that place because it's a boarding school. I had over 900 students, so it was really, really a big school.
So far, no group has come out to take responsibility of this attack. But we've heard Aisha Wakili, one of the strong negotiators.
Yes.
We've read her on different
on
social media and different platforms talk about the fact that she's been contacted by members of the Boko Haram group. Could this be a lead? Could this serve as a lead for the security agencies?
Definitely, this is a lead, but Aisha Wakili has always been known with her contacts with Boko Haram. She's called Mama Boko Haram, by the way, and she hasn't hidden the fact that if some people have allegedly contacted her. But so far, I don't think any government agency has come to confirm or give any lead to that. And the military authorities, these I asked, they don't really want to talk about it. They don't want to make their decisions or the steps they are taking about the issue known for now. They are also under a lot of pressure right now, so they just want to keep everything under low key.
Tell us about the efforts by the military to rescue these girls.
After the attack, the military said they made attempts to trace them, but so far, obviously, they haven't been found. But I think one of the major high priority search operations going is the Nigerian Air Force operation, where they are conducting a lot of area surveillance in the area with hopes that some movements or some kind of intelligence gathered can give them an idea. It's not certain that this area surveillance will work, but it's just one of the steps they are taking. And they are running really, really tight shifts at the Air Force base in Maiduguri, where at every given point there are at least like 3-4 aircrafts, all fitted with cameras and monitors, trying to search the area. The Dapchi area, of course, then the neighboring, that's the border region, because Dapchi is close to the border region. So they are searching in conjunction with the multinational joint task force. So they have the air defense from Niger, also joining in the searches. So they are doing this with hopes that some kind of movement can help them trace the location of the girls.
What's the general sense of security in Yobe State? Because did you move out of Dapchi? Did you visit other communities?
Okay.
What's the general sense of security, especially for students, schools, families?
The general sense of security is really low now. Yobe State, for a while, didn't really have so many attacks. And in fact, the Yobe State, they've started rebuilding. People are living well. IDPs even have so many new buildings, low-cost buildings to live now. So Yobe was trying to get back on their feet. It wasn't as bad as, say, Borno State. So this attack just, maybe made them understand that anything can still happen. So in Dapchi, for example, the parents are worried that if the school, which should be safe, can be attacked, then they are not even safe in their own homes. So they are really, really worried. They are worried for their children. They want to go back to school. They want their children to go back to school. The village head in Dapchi emphasized that their schools really need to be protected, because if their children don't go back to school, then they don't have a future. That they want their children to go to school and come back and help them to develop
And
themselves.
if their children don't go back to school, the Boko Haram would have succeeded.
Boko Haram would have succeeded. So the issue of protecting schools is very important. And there are so many schools in the Northeast. The quality of the school is a different case entirely. But there are so many schools that are not being protected or not adequately being protected. Some they just have old men as the guards at the gates who are not armed, who can't really repel any attack. And the networks in some of these areas isn't very good. So getting across, calling for help is difficult. And even Dapchi, for example, before you get troops from Damatru to come to Dapchi, if Dapchi didn't have like its own deployment, it will take a long time. Anything can go wrong during that period. So people they don't feel safe. They feel scared for their lives. The children emphatically said they won't want to go back to school, except their schools, they are moved to maybe the state capital or any state outside the Northeast. They are afraid of going back to school.
Understandably, a very traumatized community at the moment.
What's the location of these schools like? Are they isolated?
The Dapchi, the government girls' school in Dapchi, isn't so isolated from the community, but it's outside. It's not within the community. It's outside the community. So whatever is happening there may not really be known to the community until after a while. Except, of course, if they hear gunshots, they could get some sense of what's maybe happening, but it's outside the community. But there are schools that are worse off than the government girls in Dapchi. They are more remote and more unprotected. The communities are even smaller, but they have schools anyway. Many schools have been attacked. Many girls are out of school now. Boys and girls anyway are out of school now because of the fear and because of such attacks. And incidentally, the Dapchi school, we didn't really see destruction on the school. There wasn't much of shooting, let's say. But if you go to some schools, you see bullet holes, like lots of big bullet holes.
You're saying now that other schools have come under
schools
attack,
have come under attack.
Very yet unreported?
No, in the time past. In the time past. I think this is the most recent one. So this Dapchi attack just reminds us that if we don't make more effort to protect the schools, then more danger could be coming to our students. And then there's also another issue that I think I should raise here. The people, if we keep thinking that maybe the military, the police, or the DSS, or the security agencies can adequately protect all the schools and all the communities, it may be a bit difficult. So they really need the communities.
Why
because there are so many communities and so many schools, and they are very remote. And then sometimes when you deploy people in a certain area, another area is suffering from lack of deployment because we don't have enough manpower. It's not all policemen, for example, that are trained to work in insurgency or terrorism areas. So there are special police for that. So we really need to have more security personnel. We are really...
Has the Nigerian Army admitted some failures for making the wholesale redeployment from Dapchi without leaving behind some few men left on ground? Well, according to the statement they made, that they had a bigger attack somewhere and they needed backup, and that's why they redeployed. And they say they handed over to the police in that case. Did you see any presence of police?
There's a police station in Dapchi. There's actually a big police station in Dapchi. But I don't know if the policemen have the capacity to do that. But there is a police station in Dapchi. And in many other parts of Yobe State in particular, it's one of those states, Yobe and Adamawa, some parts, which had begun to regain some form of peace, that police and civil defense were deployed to. This was after some form of consultation and all of that. It was a major issue. Then there was a committee set up for that. So, well, I guess it just happened.
Are you keeping in touch with the committee set up by the National Security Advisor to investigate the circumstances leading to this particular incident? What information are you getting from them?
The committee, the report is not yet out, but they are working. I think it should be out by this week. But so far they haven't said anything. But the civil defense, for example, moved to Maiduguri yesterday, and by today they should be in Dapchi. They are going to beef up the security there now.
No, you was going with the thoughts earlier about the people of Dapchi and the Yobe State. They shouldn't just depend on the military and the police for protection.
Yes.
What is your own observation, in terms of protecting themselves?
The people need to give information. The people need to make sure that their children are not getting involved in this thing. These people are not hidden. After all, Mama Boko Haram knows them very well. So I'm sure there are more people who know them. There are more people who may not want to talk about it, but they really need to talk about it. They really need to expose those involved so that they can be caught. They speak the same language. They are from the same places. They know themselves. So if the people are not ready to give out information, if they are not ready to hold their people accountable, then it may be difficult for outsiders to come and protect them, because after all, the population in the community is more than the population of Nigeria, the whole Nigeria security forces. So they actually have an edge if they could give information, if they could hold their children accountable. Because
do they trust the security agencies enough to want to share information with them?
Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they don't just care.
Now, there's been proposals for some of these boarding schools in the Northeast to be changed into day schooling.
Yes.
Do you think it's something that is resonating very strongly among them, and it's a proposal they may likely want to implement moving forward?
Yes, they will. They really, really would like to implement that. Because if people are not ready to go to school, the next option for them is to just go to day schools, not boarding schools anymore. Because many of them are not ready. In fact, parents are unwilling to let their children. A certain woman told me she has only 2 children, and if she ever recovers her daughter, she's not sending her to school again.
Now, there's a safe school initiative, that was introduced after the Chibok girls were attacked by the former UK Prime Minister. Was there any sense of any presence of an initiative like that?
No, there was no sense. And like many other projects that have been initiated in Nigeria, I don't think it was followed through to a logical end. There may be some safe schools, but they are probably in the state capitals or in other big towns,
not in the rural areas,
but not in the rural areas.
All right, Mngusuul Uji, thank you so much for these updates. She is a defense correspondent and just came back from Dapchi, Yobe State, giving us situation reports as far as the rescue of the 110 girls abducted from the government secondary science and technical college in Dapchi. Thank you so much for your updates.
Thank you very much.
All right, don't go anywhere just yet. Our next conversation